Welcome all to the next episode of the How's Your Ground Game podcast. I'm Damoon here with Birdman, joining us from Vero Beach. Coming off a big week, another clinic down there.
Another clinic in the books.
Awesome. We're surviving the summer months of training with the gis on.
With the gis on.
With the gis on. How was it having some guests down there this week?
It was pretty good. It was a lot of fun. They're great guys. It's their first time seeing the Gymnastica Naturale. So a lot of eyes opened on that.
How do people generally respond when you show them the Gymnastica?
At first, they're a little intimidated by it. But then once they, how I do things step by step, we get them going. I think they really get into it. And then once they see a jiu-jitsu lesson, like James Hoffman, I got into the jiu-jitsu part. I was like, hey, we just did that in the Gymnastica. I'm like, yeah. We just did that in Gymnastica.
You learn a few building blocks, and then you get to put them together.
Well, that's what I told them. I said, if you subscribe to my version of jiu-jitsu, how I do it, when you're doing Gymnastica, you're getting jiu-jitsu reps.
Right. Which is ideally what we want to be doing when we're doing some kind of flexibility work or warm-up or strength and conditioning.
Everything, yeah.
If we can incorporate it directly into what movements we'll be doing for jiu-jitsu, it's 2 for 1, right?
How many jiu-jitsu reps you get in CrossFit?
That's right.
Not many, right?
Doesn't quite translate the same way, no. I haven't had to choke a tire yet, so
no.
I don't get assaulted by kettlebells too often on my way home.
No. Box jumping is not an efficient way to pass the guard.
No. We haven't figured that translation out yet.
We'll get to that in a couple of years.
Awesome. And you got some big things coming up this summer. You're going to be teaching up at the Origin Camp, right?
Origin Camp in Farmington, Maine, Lake Echo, August 18th to 24th. Sold out. Sold out,
right. But that Origin Camp gets sold out way in advance.
Way in advance.
They got a lot of people away.
It's I know last year it was like a 2,000 person wait list.
Wow.
In case anybody bailed.
Awesome. And then you taught there last year as well?
Correct. Last year.
Right on. And then what do you generally teach while you're up there? Do you teach the beginners, the advanced students, or they just have you moving around?
We rotate. There'll be like 4 or 5 instructors in each pavilion. And each pavilion has, 100 or so students. So it's white belt pavilion, blue belt has their own, purple, but everybody has their own mat section. Brown and black the browns have the option to train with black belts or with purple belts.
Got it. That's awesome.
It is. I like the way it's broken up.
And what's the schedule like when you're up there?
3 days, 3 times a day. So it's like a 9 a.m. session, and probably I think it's like just after lunch, like a 1:30 session or 2 o'clock, and then there's an evening session. I think it's right before dinner, or maybe it's right after dinner. I forget. No, it's after dinner. It's dark.
They did away with the half session, so it's a full week, right?
Full week only, but there's still that day off in the middle. So.
All right. I mean, that is a lot of immersion in jiu-jitsu.
It is. I mean, I tell you, last year when we got to that Wednesday, that break day, I'm like, I'm taking a nap today. Yeah. So I'm tired, because it's not only that you get there, you teach the class, but if you have 100, 150 students on the mats, a percentage are going to have questions.
Right.
A percentage is going to talk to you about something. Another percentage, hey, can we get a quick picture? Hey, can I get a picture with all the instructors? It's, so that's a good 45 minutes, an hour after the class.
Yeah.
We can wind down and eat is just.
And then even when you're eating and you're sitting in the cafeteria, the conversation might go back to the technique or jiu-jitsu or something. And it's not like you can run away from jiu-jitsu while you're there, right? You're in it.
I think one night I was sitting there eating, and it was late, like 10 o'clock at night, and I had like a cup of sleepy time tea because I'm an old man, and this guy flops next to me, dripping in sweat, and again
in the cafeteria.
In the cafeteria, sits right next to me. I look over. He's like, "Hey, so somebody told me you showed this choke from the back, and maybe," I'm like, "Tomorrow. Ask me tomorrow." I'm not touching you right now. No. Go away.
I clocked out. We're done.
Yeah, I'm already. It's tea time. Yeah, I'm winding down. You
it.
know, I'm gonna drink my tea and go back to my cabin and watch the Golden Girls or something. I'm an old man. I need to sleep.
There is something really when I was there for one session, there is something really nice just having the mat space open,
Yes.
just being able to just even stretch on the mats in between classes, or you really get to be in it.
Yeah, and there was groups there that were out there middle of the night, 5 a.m. They had these little cliques that would get together. It's great. Hey, we're the midnight rollers, right?
Right.
We're out there at midnight. We're the 5 a.m. crew. We're out there at 5 a.m. We have the mats to ourselves. Get our rounds in. They bring, people have little round timers on their phones or pocket ones.
Right.
And it's great. It's
They
there's
get
so
after it.
much. There's so much there there's so much opportunity if you have the ambition.
Right on. Yeah. And you make some really good connections.
Absolutely, yeah.
Relationships.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. I also really enjoyed they have the outdoor pavilion where they have sometimes they have the barbecue or whatever outside, the lobster boil.
Yeah.
And then you have the outdoor training as well, which is really fun.
Yeah.
I think outdoor training underrated.
Completely underrated.
Gotta make that happen more often.
Well, that's, once we get into the winter months, what do I got here? Somebody calling in. Decline. Who's bothering me?
Do not disturb.
Do not disturb. We're busy.
Speaking of which, let me shut my phone off too. Okay. Yeah, awesome. On that note, just talking about camp, what I wanted to discuss this week was just motivation and training.
Okay.
And I think camp is a great jumping point because there's moments where we get really into jiu-jitsu or any hobby, whatever it is. But, you have that drive and you just throw yourself into it. Maybe you have a week off of work or whatever, and you're there day and night. And then a week or two goes by and you're just like burnt out.
Yeah.
And, the goal of, at least the way we train, isn't to do it for a year or do it for 6 months. We got tea incoming, sleepy time tea.
No.
The goal isn't to just do it.
The executive producer was handing me a note.
Understood. Isn't to just do it for 6 months or a year. It's longevity, right? We want to be doing this, as we get older. We want to do it into our 50s and 60s. So obviously, one thing we want to do is maintain the bodies, but we also want to maintain motivation. So I just wanted to touch base about that, discuss a few things that come up with that. But in general, when I talk about motivation in jiu-jitsu, what's the first thing that comes to mind for you?
Well, I think motivation is not the most accurate term. Okay, because for guys like me, motivation is not the term because we don't need to be motivated.
Okay.
It's part of it. I think rather than motivation, it should be balance.
Yeah.
Okay. You have to have balance if you want to have balance in jiu-jitsu, you have to first have balance in your life. People could be motivated and gung-ho, but if they're working 80 hours a week, how are they going to get to jiu-jitsu? Right? So you could have full, gung-ho, all in, I signed the card, I drank the Kool-Aid, I'm in, I bought 20 gis, I've got everything. I've got the jiu-jitsu soap on a rope, I've got the finger tape, I've got everything. I am all in, except I work 80 hours a week. So more than motivation, I think people need balance. They need to decide, who they want to be, where they want to be in life,
And what they realistically want out of their hobby.
You have to be honest with yourself.
Right.
I'm training for a world championship. I see you once every other week. You should maybe, rethink that.
So, I mean, there's the practical balance of finding where the hobby fits into your schedule.
Yeah.
And then there's also the mental balance of having if you're doing jiu-jitsu twice a week, maybe you shouldn't be thinking about jiu-jitsu 90% with 90% of your free mental space, right?
That's out of balance, isn't it?
That's out of balance, right? I think that's a good starting point. Is you're right. As adults, motivation is less. We say it a lot with diets. The best diet is the one you're actually going to follow.
Yes.
So finding the best routine of what actually fits into your lifestyle, and it's your work schedule, family, social life.
Yeah.
What you're physically able to endure.
Yeah. It's people they just race into things, right?
Yeah.
They just dive in the pool, right? They don't ask how deep it is.
Right.
They just jump right in.
Hey, what's the term? They go straight for the fire hose, right?
Yeah. But it's like you should kind of like understand if it's for you or not.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Is it for me or is it not for me? You have to be honest with yourself, because some people are like, it's not for me, but I just want to do it.
Right. It's the in thing right now.
Yeah, I got a bad back. Right?
Yeah.
Somebody says, "Oh, I got all these disc problems, and I'm overweight, and I have such cardio issues. I have asthma, but I want to train jiu-jitsu." Well, do you? Realistically, I know you want to be involved in the sport. Is training the best thing for you right now?
Right.
You remember Ken Wharton, right?
Ken Horton?
Wharton.
I'm not familiar.
From the Union, he was at the Union Street School. Big Ken, big guy, always smiling.
He was there before me. I know who he is. Yeah.
Okay, so he signed up one day. He came in. He's got to sign up. Okay, no trial class, nothing. Just signed up. Talked to him afterwards. Like, oh yeah, I took the trial class a year ago. He goes, but I realized that I couldn't do it as I was. So he did yoga and diet and lost 100 pounds in that year.
Wow.
And then came back and trained jiu-jitsu. Now, I always think that, to me, that's the greatest success story I've ever seen in jiu-jitsu.
Right.
Hands down.
Yeah.
Okay. Talk about the motivation. Talk about the balance and the seeing it through. You give yourself a year through yoga and diet to lose 100 pounds because you want to do this so bad. Okay. Now, if I'm 26, another student X, 26 years old, few years out of college, played some sports, nothing great, but wants to get back into, a physical thing. And, they don't show up because they go drinking with their buddies. They have this, people are in town. Oh, there's a game I want to watch. You look at the two people, you would always say, "Oh, that's a jiu-jitsu guy right there, the young one." That's not a jiu-jitsu guy. That's a trend follower, right? The guy who takes the year, does all the hard work, and comes and trains. That's the jiu-jitsu guy, right?
Right. As an instructor, right, when you're seeing people, because there's different, what we're talking about, motivation and people wanting to do it, there's different levels of it. There's, like you said, there's the people who are following the trend. There's the people that want to just have something on the side of their life. There's people who are maybe lifelong, like this is their creative expression. This is their art. This is their, it's in their blood, whether they like it or they're not.
Yeah, people are constantly pursuing the martial art. They have black belts in multiple things. And it's okay, it's time to do jiu-jitsu.
Right. Different people are going to have a different relationship. As an instructor, or how important is it to speak to where the person's at versus where they want to be? Meaning, if a random person comes in and they're okay with just getting their blue belt and quitting, like, hey, I just want to get my blue belt and be done. Is it worth it to encourage them to go past that and to stay with it? Or is it kind of like, hey, let it run its course, and when it runs its course, it's okay, go on to the next thing?
Well, I try to foster an environment that keeps people kind of intrigued and interested.
Okay.
Okay. And it goes beyond belts. What I'm trying to, especially what I'm trying to do now, and you've got the bird's eye view of what I've been doing for years, right? And you've got a glimpse inside what I'm trying to do down here is more of a lifestyle, right? With the Gymnastica Natural and the Jiu-Jitsu. I mean, even these guys who came in this past week, I mean, there are a couple black belts, brown belts. Their eyes were open, like, wow, I've never seen Jiu-Jitsu kind of explained like this.
Right.
And they're very, kind of, that's a motivation for them, right? It's something new when you've seen everything already, right? You've had to drill everything already. But then somebody shows you cross collar choke from the guard, and there's all different things involved in this that you didn't really think about.
Right.
It's like, oh, wow, this is it. So along with motivation and balance, we have to always revitalize, refresh, renew our outlook on things. So how I'm teaching now is kind of a more like a, not just jiu-jitsu, but it's a lifestyle, like how I live. This is how I live, and I'm so much happier that I live like it's not a cult. You don't have to live like I live, but I find the things in jiu-jitsu, and I try to always kind of overlay that on other aspects of my life. I get so much right in jiu-jitsu, and I get so much wrong everywhere in life. Okay? So I try to take what I get right in jiu-jitsu and move it over to other things. And then once I do something right somewhere else, swapping out a water heater somewhere, when I figure a few things out with leverage and the mechanical aspect of it, I feel happy, I feel good. And I try to bring that back to jiu-jitsu with a lesson. Or I meet a guy like Ken Wharton, right? That kind of motivates me to be a better teacher. If someone's going to put that much work in to be a student, shouldn't I be working just as hard to be an instructor?
Right.
So I think that as an instructor, when you're motivated, when you're excited about new things, when you're trying new things, that rubs off on the student.
Okay.
Do you think that makes sense?
And it becomes like a little bit of a loop. They feed off of your energy, you feed off of their energy, keeps it going.
Yes, a college student may call that a symbiotic relationship. But I never quite matriculated, so I don't know if it's right.
SAT words.
Yes, SAT words.
How do you? One thing I've noticed with certain people who practice jiu-jitsu, they set like a hard goal. I want to compete. I want to get my blue belt or purple belt or black belt. I want to lose weight. I want to be able to do an arm bar, whatever it is. And I find that occasionally, actually pretty often, when people set a hard goal like that, especially if it's not technical, I want to get my blue belt. As soon as they get to the milestone, they just drop off.
Yeah.
Like they get to a place where they feel like they're grinding out the last little bit. They stop enjoying the process. And then when they finally get to the finish line of where they set the finish line, they just drop off. They're just like, oh, okay, I need to take a break. And then when you take a break, it's really hard to come back.
You never come back.
It's
Well, do you set finish lines for yourself?
Do I set finish line, not finish lines? No.
Yeah, no. That's the mental error, right? You can set milestones, right? You can set, points on a journey, right? The jiu-jitsu journey. You're going to set points, some peaks you want to get to, and some things you want to cross off your list. Yeah, that. But I don't think I've ever put a finish line.
Do you think it's problematic? So I think my perspective when it comes to those points, I like to sometimes, as I get to those points, take a moment and appreciate, oh, I did that. But I feel like trying to be motivated to reach the next point becomes a losing scenario. You burn yourself out if you're trying to, because Jiu-Jitsu isn't quantitative. There isn't a formula. If I put in this many hours, I'm going to hit this many arm bars. I'm going to hit this belt
No,
in this many years.
no.
So if you try to make it that way, you're going to be disappointed.
Yeah, it's not a computer game. It's not a novel. Okay, great story, right? You're reading a great story, watching a great movie.
Yeah.
What's the worst part of a great story?
The end, I don't know.
The end, right?
The end.
That's
Yeah.
the end. You want more.
Right.
So you can't think of your journey as a book, right? It's once upon a time and the end. And everything we do in the middle is the journey.
Right.
So if I think of the end as being dead,
Right.
That's when I'm not going to do jiu-jitsu anymore when I'm dead.
Right.
So I have all this time to fill until I die with jiu-jitsu. So it's not like, when I get this degree or that or this accomplishment as being the finish line. Finishing line is when, they screw me into the ground. That's when the game's over. But until then, we're going to be on the mats.
And that comes back to your original point of what's the intention here? If you're doing it, right, you're not doing it just to get your blue belt. You're not doing it just to get to the black belt. You're doing it to do it. Then you got to just have fun on the ride.
Yeah. Well, I think what I always tell myself and I tell newer students is just try to get better. Right? Every day you get better or you get worse. You never stay the same. Okay? So just try to be better tomorrow than you are today. And if that means lasting another 30 seconds in the bottom of side control before you get tapped or mounted, that's a win. You have to stack those wins up all the time. You take those days, those classes, and you take the little victories and you move forward. That's how you get better. You don't get better by watching so many video instructionals per week. That doesn't get you better. No. It's what you can accomplish on the mats.
Someone actually commented on the last podcast. It was really nice. They said, I feel like I got better at jiu-jitsu just by listening. And I appreciate the comment. And I had to rethink how I was going to respond a few times. But my gut reaction was first like, get back on the mat. Like, this doesn't count.
Well, what you should say is you may have a better appreciation or understanding of how to improve at jiu-jitsu, right? You're learning how to learn. Right. Which some people need to do. Right. Some people don't know how to learn jiu-jitsu. We've seen that.
Absolutely.
I try to get my guys all the time. I have everybody has a notebook now.
Good.
Yeah. And if somebody doesn't take notes, the other students kind of snicker and make fun of them. But everybody take notes now. But you're paying for an education. Why wouldn't you take notes?
Take it seriously. How much do you see, like at the beginning, everyone's super excited about jiu-jitsu because they're learning a new thing, and anytime we learn a new thing and we see these quick improvements, it's very exciting. And then, about a year into it, that feeling fades. How do you recommend people deal with that? Do you think it's better for people to slow down at the beginning so that they progress a little bit more gently, so they don't have like these big waves?
Is that we talk balance? Exactly what we started with. I mean, that's what it is. You have to give yourself a schedule, see how your body and your mind reacts to that schedule. Okay, I'm starting off. I've never done anything. I'm going to do 2 days a week. Okay, I'm going to do Tuesday and Friday. And I'm going to see how my body reacts. Okay, I'm going to see how my diet needs to change. I'm going to see how my sleep needs to change. Does it fit in with my work and family schedule? You have to, okay, it's working. I'm going to add a third day. Okay, now I'm going to go Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Right.
Switch it up a little bit. And you got to see how everything reacts. Because if you're Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and you notice that, Wednesday and Friday, you never get sleep because your mind is way too active.
Right.
But Tuesday, Friday, you had a better time at it because You weren't getting so much information. So your sleep is very important. You know, eating well is very important. So you have to really, if you want to pursue this forever, you have to kind of have a game plan. No different than going into a role. You got to have a plan. If you go into anything without a plan, how successful do you think it will be?
And even if the plan is just to gather data and experiment, right?
Yeah. Even if the plan changes in a week.
Right.
That you still should go in with a plan. That's when you start anything. You know?
How does fun factor into it? How important is fun to the process? Should it always be fun? Is it okay if it's not fun? Should we look to make it fun when it's not fun?
You should ride that fun wave when it comes.
Okay.
Okay. But I think in the early part of training, you should be all ears, not much mouth.
Okay.
Right? You have 2 ears, 1 mouth. So listen twice as much as you talk.
I think maybe even longer than just the earlier part of training. The longer we can hold on to that, the better for us, right?
Yeah. Purple belts can make jokes.
Purple belts can make jokes.
Yeah. Anybody other than purple belts, you shouldn't be making jokes. But, you know, you should just be there and be a good training partner. Be appreciative of the instructors and be appreciative of the people who help you. Be appreciative of the people who roll with you,
right?
Who will take you as a training partner, right?
Yeah.
The people you ask to roll, they'll always say yes. You know, show them some more respect and kindness, and just be it should teach us to be a better person.
The process.
It's not about being mean to this person or hurting this other person, because without that other person, I don't get better.
So what I'm hearing is fun is less important than like good vibes, like
respect,
just a good environment. Like you don't need to be completely enjoying it and being, but
you have to show that you have some common sense and common courtesies.
Right.
That's really not a big ask either. No, it's not. But we know a lot of people who don't give any of that out, do they? They have no common sense, no common courtesies, no respect. And they think they're doing it right. But they may go far, meaning the duration of jiu-jitsu, but they will never reach their potential.
Right.
Because of their being hampered by their attitude.
They're getting in their own way, and they're not getting the most out of their training partners because they're not giving the training partners.
They're getting in their way. They're getting in everybody else's way, and nobody wants to deal with them.
Right. This may go in a few different directions, but do you think jiu-jitsu is for everyone?
No. It's not for everyone. Just like playing the saxophone isn't for everyone. Joining the Girl Scouts isn't for everyone. You know, swimming in the ocean isn't for everyone. There's going to be a lot in your way training jiu-jitsu. Okay? Sweaty dudes on top of you, the smell of things, the work, the focus.
You're losing a lot. Like the constant, like I messed up, I failed. A lot of failure, right?
You have to have your pride and your ego in check.
Yeah.
You have to have that under control. Simply things, you have to know how to breathe. The simplest thing. But people breathe wrong, and that's going to get in the way.
When do you think people have a realistic idea of whether jiu-jitsu is for them or not?
Mine was day 2. Some people, I say never.
So, you know, people can go in their purple belts and they're really not, they're like a fish out of water. They're going through the motions.
I have black belts who still have not figured out whether
jiu-jitsu is for them.
Or haven't figured out that jiu-jitsu truly isn't for them.
Right.
Yeah. They're doing it, but it's really not for them.
So how would you, for the person who maybe it is for them or it's not for them, how do you define that? How do you identify that? Because just going back to, you know, this whole idea of motivation and like keeping it going, sometimes, and we'll get to that in a minute, of like trucking through the hard times, because there are times when you don't feel like training or it's hard to train or whatever. But how do you know whether it's just hard to train or maybe training isn't for you?
Well, It's tough to say because I've never had that.
That's right. I agree. Yeah.
Right. So it's, I mean, I'm trying to think of what I can see in people. It's when they just, you can tell they just don't care while they're there. They just show up more as a social component, which is okay, but they're just,
Right.
whatever. They're just whatever. When I look over, they're going to drill it. When I look away, they're going to be like, whatever.
Fair. Yeah. And on that note, I'll throw this out there. I think my idea of this has changed since I've become an instructor. But there are a lot of people who've come through and trained, and maybe it wasn't for them, or maybe it just didn't work. They couldn't find the balance, whatever it is. And I don't mind the social component, even if they're not training. Like if you're in a space and you're friends with people in the gym, but training isn't for you, those relationships you can still be friends. Like I see it in a lot of gym cultures where, and it's not even necessarily coming from a bad place, where because someone quits or they stop training, there's a lot of pressure. Hey, get back on the mat, get back on the mat. And I think sometimes it's appropriate, but sometimes the guy's just not done,
Yeah.
And it's okay to hang out and not have it be about jiu-jitsu. Like if it's not for you, it's okay. We can still be friends. Like,
So years ago, Union Street, I had a guy come in from another school in Brooklyn, and he was a blue belt. And for whatever reason, he left that school. So he wanted to train, took a trial class, loved it. But after we got into it a little bit, he only stayed for 1 month.
okay.
He's like, hey, I'm not going to renew after this month because I just don't feel like I could ever, be better than anybody here. I can't beat anybody. I'm a blue belt. All the white belts are better than me. He's like, so I'm going to have to go to a different school where they're less technical. He's like, you're very technical. You're a great instructor, but your students are too tactical for me. And I need to go where I can, beat people.
Okay.
So now, as a journey, is that, I don't know, not something I would go for, right? Let me go someplace watered down so I can, win versus stay someplace a little tougher where I can get better.
Right.
There are those people too that just the pride and ego gets in the way and they have to, be the top dog out there. And doesn't always happen.
How, for people that are trying to get better, and you do have, I mean, more often than not, I'm hearing a lot from my students. It's like a joke. Everyone likes to joke about this. I suck at jiu-jitsu. I suck at jiu-jitsu. It's like everybody loves saying it because even, you're always losing. Even if you're winning, you're losing. And but some people really get in there. You have that day where you just go home and you're just like,
why did I even get out of bed today?
Why did I even get out of bed today? And for some people, you have a couple of those that can be difficult to to come back to class the next day. And I'm not talking about that you had an embarrassing moment or something happened. You just feel like you're not getting better, which is pretty common. We plateau. Sometimes we even feel like we're getting worse because we're trying new things and we're failing in ways we hadn't before. How do you ride that wave?
You can't change what happened yesterday. You can't predict what's going to happen tomorrow. Right? You just live in the moment. Live in today.
Right.
That's all you got to do. Just live today. And in that role, live in the moment of the role. Don't worry about 2 rolls a guy when the guy guillotines you. Right? It's done. It's over. It happened. Right. You can't change it. Right? It's done. So worry about right now.
Even within the role, the guy passes your guard. Like you can't be sitting there, oh man, he passed my guard. You're blind with second. Yeah.
You can't time warp back to before there and do something different. So people waste too much energy on the past and the future in jiu-jitsu. Right? I'm going to join the gym next month and I'm going to get stronger. I was sick last week. That's why I didn't roll. Don't worry about either one of those things. Where are you right at this moment?
Right.
And be that person. Roll like that person should roll.
With those highs and lows, the roller coaster that comes along, how much credence do you give those feelings? The days where you feel like, oh, I just did everything right, and the days that everything went wrong. Do you shut it down? Do you just...
They're the same.
They're the same.
They're the same. Yeah. the same thing. I'm going to analyze, and I'm going to try to learn from it. Whether I win or whether I lose, I analyze it, try to get better. It doesn't matter. It's happened. It's in the past. It's gone. So we can learn from history or be doomed by history, right? Isn't that the same?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it applies here as well. I can learn from getting triangled 15 times in a row, can I?
Yeah.
And get better.
Hopefully. So, hopefully we learn from the
Hopefully we do, but when someone beats you, you're given the opportunity to get more out of that role than they did.
Right.
It's whether you take it or not.
Yeah.
If you're gonna cry and get upset and be mad at the person and I'm just gonna forget it like it never happened. Okay, then just get used to having it happen again because you're not doing anything about it.
What's the fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me?
Yeah.
Okay, you get caught with something in jiu-jitsu, it's okay. If you got caught by the same thing 10 times over, maybe you got to take a little responsibility about where your part in this is, right?
Absolutely. And if it's, everybody else's fault, then you've got jiu-jitsu just might not be for you.
Right. That's back to just to loop back a little bit. And this is, I think, probably this next point is probably, I think, the crux of motivation. I think the death of motivation a lot of times is competition or comparison. Jiu-jitsu in some ways is very individual, but in a lot of ways it's competitive. Even if we're not directly trying to be competitive, we inevitably start comparing ourselves to the other training partners.
Yes.
And for some people, it's about that person beat me or that person's better than me. And then you go through this cycle of, they're bigger, they're stronger. We make all these excuses or whatever. I think a lot of people don't identify and realize, going back to what we were saying before about lifestyle and balance, everyone's balance point is also different.
Yeah.
I've somehow managed I train a lot.
Yeah.
And I've somehow managed to do it for a long time. I don't think that's necessarily for everybody. As a matter of fact, if my students ask me if that's how they should train, I'll say, no, don't do that.
Yeah.
How do you, for a student, how do they find their balance? Is it just guess and check? Like try a little bit of this, see where you're at and shift back and forth?
Yeah. Start off and just see how it fits in your life. Right? You just can't say, I'm going to shoehorn 5 days a week in.
Right.
And then you lose your job because you're not showing up for work.
Right.
So how's your jiu-jitsu going to be then when you don't have a job?
Well, even if your jiu-jitsu is great, who cares? You don't have a job.
You don't have a job, Yeah.
Right.
So then how do you go to class with no money?
Right.
So you have to have balance. And I think a lot of people need to take responsibility for themselves on things. Like they get tapped. Well, you never showed me the escape. This guy's bigger than I am. That person it could be your fault that all this is happening. So I think people should initially look how they can change their jiu-jitsu to be better, not talk about everybody else as the blame for where they're at. What can I do to make my jiu-jitsu better?
There's also kind of with the balance, I think it's a little bit tied in. As we do jiu-jitsu and we get better and we have like these little victories, I think people are very intoxicated with this feeling of validation. Oh, I came in, everyone beat me up, and I've been doing it for 6 months. And now there's this space in the world I can go to and do one thing right, which is great. But at the end of the day, it's just jiu-jitsu. Like if you're good at jiu-jitsu, like who cares? Like, I mean, it's nice and it's for some people it's very important, but in the grand scheme of things, right? Having a job, having income, having family, probably more important to be prioritized for 99.9% of the population, right? So how do you kind of balance that feeling of, people start having a little bit of success in jiu-jitsu, they build up a little bit of that ego, a little bit of that air. How to like, I don't want to say bring them down a notch, but how to kind of recenter that, hey, it's just jujitsu. It's gotta fit into the rest of your life. Just because you got better here doesn't mean you're getting better out there as well. They gotta go hand in hand.
How do you fix that? You send Nikki to have a talk with them. Right?
Right.
They'll get it. No, it's people. Yeah, it's ego. People get full of themselves. And I'm just going to, I know I said this already today, but you have to understand if you're getting good at jujitsu, you use that as a template for other things in life.
Right.
That's the real victory there, is if I could make my everyday life better just by using the principles I use to make my jujitsu better.
Absolutely.
That's what I think people are missing. They're so focused on the prize, the medal, the banner, the Facebook post, their highlight reel, all that stuff. Make yourself a better all-around person.
Right. Right. We spend time talking about patience and controlling our emotions, decision making, strategizing, experimenting. These are all tools we can use in our life, whether it's making money by creating a business or relationships or whatever it is, how we interact with people, you know.
No, we talked last week about grips, right?
Yeah.
Now, if we kind of philosophize that, could grips also be the tactics of grips? Could that also apply to putting boundaries on coworkers of what's acceptable, what's not acceptable?
Sure.
Strategically, right. So we could use that, the theory of grips and how and why. We could use that in a workplace or family life environment, couldn't we?
Right. Right.
Grips are boundaries.
Right.
Right. So we can take that same technology, spin it around a little bit, and have it work somewhere else in our life.
Absolutely. After 25 years of doing jiu-jitsu, about, I don't know, maybe a little more.
Yeah, 26.
26. Is your excitement for jiu-jitsu the same it was when you started?
Oh, yeah. I mean, yesterday we had a special class in the afternoon for these guys in from out of town. And I think one of my regular guys came in too. The energy level was so high. I was excited. I was showing, what did I show? I think I showed the collar choke from the guard, I think. No, I showed half guard yesterday. I just showed a basic half guard pass. Everybody's excited. I was excited. We were filming it. It was great.
Are you still finding new things?
Absolutely. And I'm teaching some kids now, and that's really regenerating me a little bit. I make them, a lot of times we have to talk in Portuguese. I make them, respond to me in Portuguese. And they're a little reluctant and shy and not unsure, but they bring it out. And I'll ask them I'll ask questions to the class because the kids and the adults are in the same class. Sometimes the kids answer before the adults with the right answer. So, and in Portuguese.
Awesome. Yeah, it's new people, new training partners, freshens it up, keeps it going.
Yeah, good crew, just good people. Good people. It's not all about, I've been in so many environments where you could just see people are painfully watching the clock through the technique section of class because they can't wait to get to the live rolling.
Right.
They could care less about the technique. They just want to try to murder somebody once the mats are open.
Right.
I don't have that. Sometimes the other night, a guy asked him, got to roll. I was like, no, I'm going to just update my notes, I think. They roll, but they're more focused on really ensuring that have the mechanics of the technique down, which is good. I mean,
we're here to get better.
Here to get better. We got plenty of time to roll live. We do.
Right.
You don't need to roll live that much to get better either.
It depends on where you're at in your cycle, right? Sometimes you're experimenting. Sometimes you need more data. Sometimes you need ideas. Yeah.
New guys, you got to take in fundamental information and not get hurt. You don't want to be interrupted in that first 6 months.
Right. Injury is really the death of motivation, right?
It is. Keeping safe for that first 6 months is all the difference.
Right. Absolutely. All right, just winding down. Do you have any thoughts, anything you want to add or anything you want to shout out before we close up?
Well, I am going to be coming to visit you in August, right?
We're having a seminar in Brooklyn, August 17th. It's a Saturday from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. It'll be $75 at the door. I think space is pretty limited, so I don't know.
Act now if you're coming.
But yeah, we're going to have that. You're going to be at Origin Camp for people who are going to be up there.
Yeah, and I might have another, I'm waiting to hear back. I might have another date in Jersey on the 25th.
Yeah,
Sunday.
Of August.
Yes. So I'm waiting to hear back on that.
Is that going to be in Gale Force?
I hope so. Yeah, I reached out to Alex, so we might. Yeah.
And then you also have put up dates for 2 new clinics?
Yeah, September and October. We have clinics coming up.
Okay. I think it was like September 18 and 19, or was it the week after?
It's on my phone, and I'm using my phone right now.
All right, no worries.
We can put it in the comments.
I'll put it in the comments, and then it's also going to be it's on your Instagram, which we have a link for, and it's on the website.
Instagram, on the website, on the Facebook. It's on all that, whatever that stuff is. I have.
All right. And guys, if you're listening, I appreciate we've had a lot of positive feedback. Please like, subscribe, all that stuff. But if you guys leave comments and ask us questions, if it's a technical question about a technique or something philosophical, we're more than happy to tackle it. Or
come on, ask some questions, all right?
Whether it's on the podcast or whether we can just make a short clip separate and link it, whatever. We're just here to open up the discussion and have a little fun.
And we'll talk about cheeseburgers next time.
We'll talk about the perfect cheeseburger recipe.
Yes.
Pickles or no pickles?
I'm in a no pickle phase right now.
Interesting. Relish or pickles when you do have pickles?
On a cheeseburger? Oh, pickles. Relish is for hot dogs. You don't mix the two. Those worlds do not collide.
I thought relish is what gets mixed into secret sauce, though.
It does. That's what I make my chicken burger sliders. Only.
Got it. So if we're putting it on flat, it's got to be pickles. But if it's getting mixed in, relish can be substituted. All right. That's good to know. And what kind of cheese on the cheeseburger?
The only kind, American single.
American, yes. American or bust.
That's right. Singles, not the pre-wrapped singles, but the singles that are like, deli cut American cheese. That's the cheese.
I didn't even know you can get deli cut American cheese. I've only seen singles.
You got to ask around. You got to go to
the wrong delis. The wrong delis. All right, awesome. It was a good time. Yeah. Birdman, thanks for joining. Everybody, have an awesome week. Good training. We'll see you guys next time. Take it easy.
Take it easy. See ya.